Hi, I'm William Byrne. 31 years ago, I wrote, illustrated, and self-published a 24-page black and white comic book called Max Burger P.I. Max Burger P.I. is about a mutant hamburger private investigator, born from a microwave explosion 17 years ago, who solves crimes and battles his brother the Mad Burger, part cyborg, part hamburger, and who lives in the sewers and plots to take over the world and reshape it to his dark vision. Now I'm planning to re-release Max Burger P.I. number 1 in a longer 48-page story with all new art. I hope you will back my Indiegogo campaign. Thank you. Hey, welcome everyone. I have a special guest. It's been a while since I've been doing a broadcast. So I'm bringing in a friend of mine that I know from, he's in Canada as well. And he just did a cover for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin. I'm going to bring Mike on and hey, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
All right.
Sorry, I'm on a chair with wheels here, so kind of moving over. Let me just try to lock these in place here. So,
well, those wheels are fun. I got one on my drawing table chair, and I got one right here. You know,
mine. I'm on a hardwood floor. I got to get a good mat because if I slide too fast, sometimes I get myself a pretty good sliver from the hardwood. So.
Oh my! Yeah. No brakes on it, right?
No brakes. But it's kind of my action center here. I can't really show a picture, but it's I have a swivel chair between a huge drawing table, and then also my computer and scanning and printing station. So it's kind of like my own little kind of messy, horrible cubicle of doom that I'm in. Yeah.
You're actually messy. I didn't think us artists are messy.
No, it's I'm super messy. It's a nightmare. We don't. I actually spent the last couple of days cleaning the place because it just you just reach a point where all of a sudden you're like, okay, I don't actually have a clear surface anywhere in my house to even sit and read a book or put a cup of tea down. Like I have to do something. So it's a small apartment with lots of art supplies. My wife is also a silversmith, so there's lots of projects happening. She's also a graphic designer, so she creates calendars and creates artwork as well. So yeah, we've got very little space, very little flat surfaces. It's all art supplies or projects in motion right now. So yeah.
So that's good. Do you have a wife that's into art, so she's not going on your case about cleaning up that mess? You know?
No, she's she's the best, man. We're both very similar in that way. We prioritize we prioritize our lives and we prioritize our work. And she works. She's been primarily working doing stuff that's not related to art. For a living while doing the stuff on the side, and that sacrifice allowed me to focus exclusively on art for the last 25 years of my career. There was times when the shoe was on the other foot, but for the most part, I know that I couldn't have got here without her support and without her being able to without her realizing that sort of things were catching fire for me, and I was making great strides. With my art as I was getting bigger and bigger clients and spreading my wings. And she was already in a position where she had a little bit more time in school. We met at Sheridan College, and she spent an additional 2 years after I graduated at Sheridan finishing illustration and then finishing graphic design and new media after that. And so yeah, we both came out of school, and I had no choice but to just jump right into being an illustrator. Mm-hmm. And I basically, had one of those origin story moments from a comic book where I was doing a dangerous labor job after I graduated from art school for $8 an hour, and almost ruined both of my hands one day. Had a moment where it struck me like a thunderbolt that it was time to just chase after what I always wanted to do, because I didn't go into debt for nothing. Yep. And I decided from that moment I was going to be an illustrator or I was going to starve to death, and that was it. And so that's basically what it was. And Yeah, so she understood that. She knew how dedicated I was to this, and to be successful, I think in the art business, I mean, there's lots of guys who have side part-time jobs. I mean, I just got out of having an 8-year stint as the superintendent of the building while I was making comics and starting my comic career, just because it gave me a little bit of stability. Because someone's got to keep the lights on and someone's got to keep the cats fed while you're drawing your comics and trying to chase your dreams. No one pays for your dreams but you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and thankfully now we live in an age where we have things like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and we have a thirsty audience for fresh material, for comics and good storytelling. And I think that the time is right. Clearly, it is. I mean, for a lot of people, COVID destroyed their career, ended their job, ended their livelihood. Comics was not spared that fate. A lot of people are not in comics anymore. A lot of people don't have that job anymore. I've had to take a little bit of side job here and there, doing other things. Just we got to hustle. We got to keep alive. Okay. I'm just sometimes very thankful that my wife and I were never had children, because I don't know how I'd feed them right now. That's the reality, and it's a strange way to live. But it can't be all doom and gloom, right? It's just the world we live in now. We've been served an interesting hand, and we're clever species. We're obviously clever enough to doom ourselves. Hopefully, we're clever enough to pull ourselves out of it too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we are, but I'm not sure I'll live long enough to matter. So,
well, live as best as you can.
Oh, for sure, that's it. It's never been more clear. I think this year, if it's taught us anything, is that we have to focus on what's important. Yeah. And if we don't have the reality where we can see our family, like this right now, there's family members we can't visit. Erica can't visit her parents because they're in another province, and there's provincial lockdowns. So, it's dangerous, especially when you have people who are older in your life and you're moving from one hot zone to another hot zone or things like that. And it's just, you just got to stay still, man. You got to stay put, wash your hands, wear the masks, do all that stuff that we've had drilled into us. This is the first time I've seen my face on camera in a long time, and man, I am looking old. I think this year has done a number on all of us, eh? I'm not speaking for you. You look great. I couldn't believe you told me how old you were. That doesn't even make any sense. But anyhow, yeah.
Oh, well, good living. That's I don't drink, I don't smoke, so
that's key. That's key for sure.
Yeah,
I got into the scotch a little bit last night, but it's a very rare treat around here. It's not something that I partake in a lot of, but it was nice to take the edge off of a week, and also to celebrate some pretty awesome things that have happened this week. So can't all be doom and gloom. If give me a microphone, give me an opportunity, I can tell you about the end of the world, but I'm not going to. We can talk about comic books and good stuff on this show.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to talk to you about is it's been a good week for you this week. The Last Ronin came out.
Yeah. Man, it's one of those things like, I remember the rumblings. I mean, I think I do. I have memories from the late 80s of being a young Turtles fan before Turtle Mania came and became a cartoon and a film and just blew up. Before that happened, it was a black and white comic book about 4 brothers and a samurai rat, and it was magnificent. And my first exposure to the actual TMNT books, I had friends who had the original Mirage books, the oversized ones that The Last Ronin is sized to be similar to, which is pretty cool because it's an oversized book. But my first exposure to the Turtles was actually the original first graphic novels, the full color ones, which were like they were kind of the old format Marvel-sized graphic novels. And it was the reprinted first editions of Turtles, but this was still like 1986, so it was still pretty early when we were exposed to this stuff. Man, it was so good. It just blew our minds. It was so different than Marvel and DC, and it just was this totally different thing. And yeah, we were instant fans. So I remember as Turtles blew up, I had a younger brother who was right into Turtles, so having a younger brother that was into this stuff was great because I was, older than him, so I could enjoy the toys a little bit too, because I love the comics already and the characters and the whole franchise, the whole story. And my first actual exposure to the Turtles, I think, was the role-playing game, the Palladium Dice. the role playing game that was based on the Palladium system. They also had like Ninjas and Super Spies, and they had a whole like Palladium fantasy game. But they had a book called TMNT and Other Strangeness, and it was basically a guidebook on how to create characters like the Ninja Turtles for a role playing game. And the artwork was all done by Kevin Eastman inside, and just sensational, just unbelievable. So yeah, this whole experience with Last Ronin, to be at my age, to have gone through and seen so many generations of Turtles affect so many generations of kids, and different reiterations of the characters and all that stuff. Seeing all that is just awesome. And so yeah, working with Big Country Comics, my friends Justin and Stefan and Leanne there. I've had some great opportunities with them. They actually hooked me up with my first Turtles cover, which was Jenica, which was issue 1 of Jenica a few months back, which was a big deal for me, a huge deal. And this is somehow even a bigger deal because this is the return of Eastman and Laird. This is Eastman and Laird together again after all these years. And, it's amazing to have that story close in such a way. And to have them come back and tell a story that they wrote in 1987. This is an old story that they wrote that they actually set in the year 2017. And back then they imagined that we'd had flying cars and stuff because there's flying cars, spoiler alert, there's some flying cars in the comic book.
Is this the Last Ronin you're talking about, right?
The Last Ronin, yeah, there's flying cars. It's a futuristic vision from 1987 of what 2017 would look like.
Right.
So it was only, I think, around 2017, 2018 when Eastman and Laird kind of reunited their friendship. Nice. Yeah, you got one. Hey, that's sweet. That's wicked.
I'm still waiting for the Big Country to send me theirs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just, there's a process there, right, with the whole because Big Country's in Winnipeg and we're here in Ontario. So there's a little bit of there's some steps involved there.
I thought they were in Ontario, so I was like I'm going to have this before I talk to Mike, and I'm going to have
Well, to be fair, I had my copies the day that it came out. Justin, the minute he got them, he sent a pile of them to me. But he had we did really well, I think, with the sales of this book, and he has a lot of sales to process. So it's just a matter of he's processing them as they came in, and he's doing amazing work. And I'm super grateful to be working with those guys and to have the opportunities I've had. This was a huge one. Last Ronin was a huge one. The process of making this cover was huge. I don't want to open the artwork up and ruin the book, but it is a wraparound cover, so there's a front and back. And I tried to get as nostalgic as I could with lots of little Mouser robots, and I hit a few gems back there, like there's a Leatherhead and there's a Rocksteady and a Bebop, and some of those characters. And I didn't know that. I'm not going to spoil anything. We weren't told. Everyone thinks the artists were told who the Last Ronin is. We weren't told. We weren't told who it was, and it was amazing how many times I would encounter someone on the internet who'd be like, "So you know who it is, right?" And I'd be like, "No." "Yeah, well, that's what you say." And I'm like, "No, it's what I'm telling you. We don't know. The publisher didn't tell us. The only people who knew were the people drawing the book and the people writing the book, and that was it." And so it was nice to work on something months before it comes out, watch the hype build around it, watch the stories be told about it, watch all the covers come out, because there was like 71 covers for this book. And then to finally actually get it in my hands on the day that it came out, and to open it up and to actually read the story and have absolutely no prior knowledge except that
you didn't have the script or anything before you get the cover?
Nothing, not a thing. They just sent us what has become the Ash Can, which is they gave us a stripped down version of the Ash Can, which I think was something that was supposed to be available at Free Comic Book Day. It was actually illustrated by Andy Kuhn, who didn't draw this book. They basically redrew his pages, I think, or changed them and adapted them, and then it was actually the Escorza brothers who redrew the entire book. And it's gorgeous. It's fantastic. I love Andy Kuhn's work. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a genius, and this stuff's really good too. It's perfect for the tone of the story. To me, it really has kind of that Frank Miller sort of dark, without oversimplifying. It has a little bit of that Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns kind of story where we're getting a glimpse into the future of Batman. We're reading about a 35-year-old Batman in 1987, and then we read this vision of him as an old man, and Superman as a corporate, monster, and all this other stuff. And so this is kind of neat. This definitely has that feeling, because this was, again, their vision of what 2017 is. And so they've actually bumped the story. So now this is what their vision of 2047 looks like. to make up for the 30 years in between where this story never saw the light of day. So I think that's kind of the idea behind it. But yeah, you if the book sold out everywhere, then there was issues around that. But if anyone wants to get this copy, officially we're sold out online. I think, however, if anyone watching this wants to join the private Big Country Comics Facebook group, we may unlock a few more people watching this show specifically. Maybe if they mention this show, and they wanna hop on the private Big Country Comics Facebook group, which is easy to find on the search in Facebook. Just apply to join, and there might be some opportunities to get this cover there if that's something that you're interested in. So.
All right, let me see if I can put a link here in the comments there. I like for that, so they can, anybody who's watching can.
I think it's basically like Facebook/groups/ Big Country Comics 2, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
But if you just do a search on Facebook, it'll come up real easy for you. But yeah, so I'm getting kind of tired of looking at my own ugly face here. I'm wondering if I should maybe switch my camera over to my drawing table and do some drawing. We can chat that way.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
All right. Let's do that. Let me just switch my camera over here, and I'll switch over my microphone.
While you're doing that, I'm going to show. There was hang on. It's been a while since I've been in here, so I can't remember. So we're going to show some your Jenith.
The Jenica?
Jenica, yeah.
Yeah, if you go to bigcountrycomics.com, they got all my covers up there. You can show a whole gallery of different stuff I've done for the Sumerian, for Dark Arc, for there's some Archie books up there. There's some Aftershock books up there. All kinds of stuff. Yeah. You can
I just did a Google search and it just came up with a whole bunch of stuff you did.
There's lots. There's lots of stuff up there for sure. Yeah, Google. I've been doing this a long time, man. I've been officially online since, like, with my artwork at least. I think around 2006 or 2007 is when I really started posting more frequently. But typically, I didn't. Up until that point, I'm pretty much a caveman when it comes to computer stuff. So I really didn't really know how to get it up there at first and make that all happen. But my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, Tony, he's a genius, and he actually hooked me up with my first website, which I still miss because it was so simple and basic, but it was like perfect for me because it was like basically like basic Lego. You know what I mean? Like for a guy who like it was just kind of perfect. So I could load my artwork up. I could do all kinds of stuff. And yeah, I'm just getting my own camera set up here so I can do a little time lapse video while I draw this. I'm going to draw a beer coaster. I was thinking maybe I will draw like a Last Ronin on a beer coaster or something like that.
Last time I saw you, that was at the Kitchener Comic Con.
Yeah,
you were doing all these things. These beer.
The beer coasters. They're a blast, man. They're super fun. What I like about them is they're sort of an entry level. Art collector kind of option because over the years I've had to increase my prices due to demand and that sort of thing, and so it's not something. I always wanted to keep my artwork as cheap as I could, so I wanted to have an option for people who are coming to the show with a few bucks and want to get like a cool something small and original if they're not into collecting prints. I used to buy tons of prints, but I don't buy prints a whole lot anymore because I don't really have any place to store them and I don't really have a way to enjoy them. So I don't really bother with that kind of stuff anymore. And yeah, I wanted to be able to always produce original art at some level for somebody. And it doesn't always have to be a gigantic commission or something like that. So sorry, I'm drawing with a very light pencil, so it may not be showing up too well on the screen, but I'll once I get into the inks, it'll be more clear. I'm just going to do kind of a portrait of the Last Ronin here, since we're talking about him.
Well, we just had a. Sorry about that, Mike.
Oh, did I cut out a bit, or
no? We got a comment here from Justin Steve.
Yep.
He said, "That's it, Mike."
That's it.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's it, Mike.
That's it, Mike. Oh. Oh yeah. Oh, he must be talking about the link to the private group. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, Justin's the dude at Big Country Comics, man. He's the guy. He's the guy to talk to for sure. He's the boss. He's an excellent dude. Just an absolute pleasure working with the guy. I've had some great opportunities with him. I could show a couple of my covers. If you go right to their website, you know Hugh Rookwood. He's done Kitchener many times. You know, the 6'6" monster Hugh Rookwood. You remember him, William?
No, I'm not sure.
Great big dude. He has the huge posters. He was a guest at a lot of these, Kitchener Comic-Con type things, or those other smaller events that were held at that kind of City Hall area. He'd been there a few times with me anyway, and he's doing some covers for Big Country as well. He's doing awesome stuff. So, they got a bunch of Hugh stuff up there as well. You might recognize him if you see. I think there's a picture of Hugh up there. You might recognize him. He's a well-known guy at all the Toronto area, and just a legend, just an amazing artist.
Okay.
Everyone knows Hugh. You'll probably see some people comment if they're watching this about Hugh. Everyone loves the guy. I miss him. I miss having him nearby. We used to always see him at the local stuff. He's out in Calgary now with his family, and they're doing well out there. So The Last Ronin. If you join the private Facebook group on Big Country Comics, Justin will probably be able to hook you up later today. I think he's going to unlock a few more copies for people. The plan was to always take this book on tour with all the other books we had. We had something like 15 dates planned this year, a couple in the States and 12 across Canada. And man, gigantic plans that COVID changed. That's just, it's just the way she goes sometimes. But just figuring out new ways to, make it happen. You know what I mean? And get out there and get comics in people's hands. So.
But that's a beautiful cover you did for The Last Ronin.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah, I got a lot of great feedback on it, and I had a great team working with me. I was actually going to always do it in full color. Mm-hmm. That was always the plan, and then we decided to go with the retro blue kind of last minute. Like I was in the midst of flatting and doing all the Photoshop coloring on the full color version. And the guys we had a meeting, and we just said, you know what, let's go this direction instead and make it look like that old Mirage TMNT number 3, which is a classic kind of blue tone craft tint paper, and had like I think it's got April O'Neil's van on the cover, and the license plate. Yep. It says F-Toyd, and I put that license plate on the back cover of mine. It's a little Easter egg on the back cover of mine. Kind of fun. We just love the lore of the turtles, and like I always try to design an area on the cover where I can do remark sketches, like little extra special sketches. And in the case of The Last Ronins, I'm using a special blue and black combination of ink and markers to get the effect that I want to kind of match the blue that's already printed on the cover. And the Jenica ones, I do full color sketches on those. And it's tricky because it's that regular comic book paper, right? So it's kind of glossy. This one, The Last Ronin, you got a copy there. It's a super glossy paper. So it's a little tricky to draw on, but it took me a little bit of doing, and I figured out the method now, so I can kind of go into my pieces on those very confidently with knowing how to apply the marker. Like it's a weird thing. Like normally Sharpies are pretty stable, but when you lay the gray tones down first on this glossy surface and then attach with your Sharpie, the Sharpie lines blur. So what I've realized now is I have to go in first with the Sharpie, which is actually super good practice for drawing, because when you're drawing with a Sharpie, like there's guys out there who can just murder it with a Sharpie. Like there's guys like my friend Hugh who can just pick up a Sharpie and just murder it. No underdrawing, no undersketch. He can just go in and murder it with a Sharpie. Ken Lashley's another guy like that. Myself, I've never really felt like I always like to have the structure and the underdrawing. It's just a process. I just have always liked to build my drawing from the bones up. Just something I've always done. But over the years, I've done things like sketches on envelopes and things when I'm sending artwork to people, and I just do those straight with a Sharpie, and that's fun. And so I'm starting to realize there's a nice energy that drawing with a Sharpie, just straight to pen, no planning. There's a really nice energy that can happen there, and you can get some pretty interesting drawings out of it. And they may not be what you're used to or what I'm known for, but you can kind of get some different sort of effects happening.
So with this cover that you did,
yeah.
How many? Did you do any different layout covers or anything like? They kind of saying, well, this is what I have an ideal for, but they don't like it, but you do another one.
Yeah, I had a couple. We were pretty solid on the idea we went with, like right from the jump. Like I actually, the first night when I knew I'd be doing a cover, like I was super excited, and I was just trying to think about what I wanted to do, and we had a little bit of time to like to dream a little bit and to think out loud a little bit before I had to start working on it. And then literally the next day, our guy Stefan he just said, so here's what I'm thinking for the cover, and you can reject this idea if you want to, but here's what I think. And so he laid his idea out, and I just thought it sounded brilliant. And the only difference I made to it was I wanted to kind of wanted to make it like one big fight scene. Mm-hmm. I think the idea we originally had was to kind of show like not traveling through time, but kind of showing a little bit of a timeline of the Turtles' history, but using the sewer as a device to do that. So like as you look further and deeper into the background of mine, you would see little smaller trinkets of the past of Turtles lore. The only problem is doing this wraparound cover meant I wanted to do it all on one big piece of paper, and doing that meant I had to do it on some friggin' huge ass paper, which I did. But even then, even getting the drawing blown up, the rough sketch blown up as huge as possible, I still had some of those tiny little details in the background that I had to draw in ink, and it was really difficult, even blowing it up as big as I did, because I have a much easier time drawing big things than I do small things, because, getting a little older, I think my eyes are still pretty good, but I get tired, and I think drawing small stuff like little hands and little faces at that scale is just not something I've ever felt I've done a great job at. So I wanted to draw things as large and comfortably as I could. I did have another idea as well. I may have it on my phone somewhere. I'm not sure. But the other idea I had was similar, except that it was more like on the back side of the cover, there was going to be, or no, I guess it was the front side. The front side of the cover, there was going to be this image of the last Ronin looking over, like down on a futuristic city that I only had a little bit of reference from the reference that they sent us. And in the back, and leading up to that panel, so it'd be like the front cover was like a big panel of him standing on the ledge, kind of like a Batman style pose, looking down on a futuristic city. And then the back cover was a series of panels of him leaping from building and, doing a flip on a post, and then leaping onto another post, and then like jumping across onto another building. So it was kind of like those old pages of Daredevil, where you'd see Daredevil do like in one panel, like 15 flips to get to the top of the building, but it would show, the artist would draw the whole scene and leave all these great props for the character to interact with. And so I wanted to do something like that to kind of capture that kind of feeling. They liked the idea, but my other idea that we went with was already so well developed that they just said, yeah, like this is probably the one to go with, but both ideas are approved. So that was nice to get both of them approved, even with it probably sounds like I'm bragging now. I'm not trying to, but I was so excited to do the Turtles stuff that when I kind of went all out on my rough sketches, because I wanted to be happy with all my rough ideas that I sent, because as I've learned being an illustrator for as long as I have, if you pad the envelope for the sake of just showing like you're like showing off or showing that you did extra work, you can sometimes get saddled with having to do a bad idea. Like in that they choose the one that you didn't want to do, but you put it in there because it made you look better, because it made you look like you had more ideas. The reality is, if you give them 5 ideas ranked best to worst, they're always going to choose number 5, because you're usually working with, creative forces that aren't coming at it from that angle. They're not coming from a creative angle. They're coming at it from a different angle. And it always amazed me in all my career. Not so much now, because the guys at Big Country Comics, we talk about everything and they just trust me. They just trust me to do my thing. But for many years, I worked for different companies where it'd be a committee of 15 people deciding what I was going to be drawing, and I wouldn't be even in that meeting. and then I'd be given some ridiculous thing to draw, which is fine, and then I would draw it, and then they would commiserate on my roughs and come back to me with 15 more changes. And if they had just trusted me to do my thing, it would have been okay, I think, or at least involve me in the creative process of the conversation. But at the end of the day, it's just a job at the end of the day. But the nice thing about working with the Big Country Comics guys is that it hasn't felt like a job. It's just felt like an awesome time where I finally get to work on some stuff I always dreamed about working on.
Nice.
I'm really lucky, man. I don't overlook that. We all run into bad times and we all have terrible things happen to us and we go through tough shit. But at the end of the day, you got to chase after the things you love. And I think the guys that I've been working with understand that and they want to help foster that because, a happy artist makes good work. A miserable artist also makes good work. That it can really work both ways. And sometimes, there's a lot of misery in the joy of doing a job. There's pressure, man. There's pressure. Like
when you're drawing, like I find when I'm drawing, I'm always nervous. Is that drawing going to come out really nice? Pencils look really nice. And then when you start going into the inking stage,
brother, tell me about it. I got to tell you about the relationship. Like I have kind of a 3-way relationship with myself, which sounds a lot more sexual than it should, but just hear me out. Basically, the penciler and the inker and the colorist that all live within me, none of those guys get along. Like the penciler knows exactly what he's doing and he sets up the inker to fail. And then the inker suffers through it and does his best only to have the colorist show up and just basically throw his hands up in the air and walk out of the room going, what did these two idiots just do to me? And there's this actual conversation that happens in my head sometimes with these 3 entities that make art in me. And colorist Mike really, really, really hates inker Mike. Inker Mike sometimes delights in the work of penciler Mike, but mostly he hates that son of a bitch, And there's some stuff that is hard to ink. It's beautiful to pencil, but it's hard to ink. Like you think hair looks wicked in pencil, and then you remember that you have no idea how to ink hair. What am I doing? Who do I think I am right now inking hair? It's tough, especially if the character's blonde or something like that. Then you got to really think about how you're inking that hair. And then, man, I noodle on stuff, right? So I can very easily overwork things. And, you should just ask the guys at Big Country. They hear how I torture myself over some of these things, getting happy with a piece, trying to get there with what I want to do. But I mean, when I'm suddenly finding myself drawing characters like Conan and the Ninja Turtles and stuff, and I'm like freaking out because here I am, man, it's happening, and I'm like, what am I gonna draw? Like my first Sumerian cover, which is like one of my favorite pieces ever. Like it was such a blast to work on, and let's see if I can pull it out here. I got one handy. I should have one handy. Well, that's my Archie cover. Sorry. You can also get that at bigcountrycomics.com, I think. But trying to find my Conan cover. Anyway, I got one around here somewhere, but my Sumerian cover, that was so much pressure, man, because here I was. I got a chance to draw a Conan cover again, and I was super stoked about it, and I had no idea what to draw. I think I produced like 9 or 10 different images, and then I think I had to do about 6 more because I just couldn't get satisfied with what I wanted to do. And the funny thing was I ended up going back to my first one. I just went right to my first original drawing, and that's the one we went with. Sometimes there's energy there that can't be recaptured, and even though the concept might not be strong enough, or you can work on that, but sometimes there's an energy or a feeling in the piece that you got to try to capture, and so that's what I'm always trying to do. I try to follow that instinct, and the guys recognize that in me too. It's great to work with people who seem to kind of get me a little bit, and it's just an awesome thing. Anyway, I'm lucky to be working with such cool people is basically what I'm saying.
Nice. Now, your working process, you were saying with the last Ronin cover, you do layouts and then you blow them up. Is that what you do with all your projects?
It depends on the piece. Like in the case of the Archie cover, it was such a simple image, but the figures were so large. I was able to I penciled this one actually on my iPad, and I never thought I would be a guy who would do any kind of digital work at that level. But honestly, my favorite thing to do is inking. And my inking my own stuff. It's also my most feared and dreaded thing to do in some ways, but it's like this delicate balance of like I know I get better every time I ink, and I know I butcher a lot of what I ink. So it's nice to watch that growth happen sometimes. And so inking is what I'm all about. So very often my pencils are very loose because I know what I'm going to be doing with my inks. So I've been doing a little bit of penciling on the iPad, and then I always like to have original art though to sell. Like I always want to have an original piece of art. So sometimes I will blow up the drawing on just regular paper, and then I'll light box it onto like watercolor paper or something like that, or a nice Bristol board, and then I'll ink that. Or if I have nice, good enough, clean pencils on my iPad, I'll just blow that file up and actually print it on 11 by 17 Bristol board, like as very, very pale light blue pencil lines that are barely visible. And they really just become more of a guide at that point. And then I have my rough drawing originally there on my iPad that I can reference if I need to for anything specific. But I like to always do my inking by hand. And then, I'll scan that piece, and then I'll color it digitally usually, or I'll paint it by hand, depending on the style or the piece that the art director wants. So this one, the Archie one, I inked it. I penciled it on my iPad, then I printed it out and inked it at full size, and then I scanned that and colored it in full. And I think I colored this one on my iPad actually. The Last Ronin, it was gigantic. So for that one, what I had to do, I couldn't find a printer around here who could do it for a reasonable price, who would print a light blue line of my pencil sketch onto a huge Bristol board or a huge massive piece. I know a guy who can do it, but he was going to charge like $75. And I could have just paid him the $75 and got my whole Saturday back that I lost, but instead I did it the old school way. And I'm glad I did, because I ended up discovering problems in my drawing at the rough level that I hadn't noticed, and they were subtle enough that no one really noticed them, but they're actually fairly structural. And I had a construction in the sewer of my scene that didn't actually make any sense. An edge became like, it's hard to explain, but I had the perspective wrong on it, and it was dreadfully wrong, and I noticed it when I blew it up huge. And so what I do is I blow it up, and I'll actually have an example I can show here. I haven't shared this piece online because it's a private commission for a friend, but I'm going to share this little piece quickly. This is a gigantic Wolverine that I'm doing. It's actually a Wolverine fighting a Sentinel, and it's a humongous piece. And what I did was I blew up the drawing, and then I had to print it out in two halves on 11 by 17, and then I had to tape them together. And then I take blue chalk, and I basically rub the back with blue chalk. Sorry, can you see that? Rub the back with blue chalk, and then basically I will lay this over top of my paper, tape it down, and then I'll take a super hard, sharp pencil, and I'll just trace over my own lines, and it leaves an impression underneath that I can still erase, because I basically use like a blue charcoal type material, and it goes on very, very light. So as a result, I can just basically like erase it and make changes. So that's what I did for Last Ronin as well. And I'm really, really happy that I did, because it meant I was able to identify that problem, because there is nothing worse in my experience than, let me just get this back here, than not noticing a mistake, and then inking a mistake, coloring a mistake, and then printing and publishing a mistake, and then realizing the mistake when you see it in the solicits, or realizing the mistake when they send you a comp in the mail, and you go, oh man, I can't believe I did this, like I put two left hands on this guy or something, and no one noticed, or I've never done that, but I'm just making that as an example. I did a Quantum and Woody cover a couple of years ago for Valiant Comics, and it was a Jaws movie poster homage, and it was a fun cover, but I actually kind of messed up the wrist of one of the characters. He's like sitting and holding a drink or something. I can't remember. And I've drawn his wrist bone all wrong. And as a result, it haunts me every time I look at that cover. I don't think anyone would notice it but me. But like Ty Templeton noticed it because I was taking classes with Ty. And I literally got the comic in my hand when I was on my way to his class. I picked it up in the mailbox. I went to his cartooning class, and it was the day that he was going to teach us about like wrist bones and how to draw wrist bones. And so I had this perfect example of how not to draw a wrist bone published on a comic book cover, and it was like, oh. And so I ended up becoming a bit of an example, but it was a good learning. It was a teachable moment, or a good learning for me anyway. And because nothing will haunt you worse than bad artwork, especially years after, and you've improved and you've kind of gotten better. But stuff like that happens, and it's just kind of funny. So sorry. I think I went on a bit of a rambling tear there. I apologize for that.
That's no problem. What was your first comic book, Mike?
My first comic book that I read, or my first comic book that I worked on?
No, your first comic book you read.
The first comic book that I read was probably
that got you into the industry. That kind of, oh wow, this is what I want to read for the.
Well, when I was a little kid, I remember my uncle had comic books. I also know a neighbor of mine in the building that I lived in. I was friends with the superintendent's kid when I was living in this building on Yonge Street when I was just a youngster. And his dad was a big collector. And I used to smuggle comics out of his house and just bring them upstairs and read them. And I used to just fixate on the Hulk and anything with the Thing. Anything with Ben Grimm. So I used to just always walk out of there with Marvel 2-in-1s, Fantastic Fours. But the first comic that I remember reading, I had two that my mom got for me. And it was Marvel 2-in-1. I want to say it was like 85 or number 82 or something like that. Mm-hmm. I remember the cover vividly. It had the death of Black Goliath. It also had a Spider-Woman makes an appearance, original Spider-Woman. And on the cover is the Thing, and he's tiny, and he's lifting a gigantic robot over his head. And I just loved the character of the Thing because I remembered the Thing and Fred Flintstone, Barney Rubble cartoon. And the Weird Thing cartoon show that I'm sure you remember, the Thing Ring, Do Your Thing, where it was the young adventures of Benji Grimm and his friends. It was almost like an Archie comic where Archie turns into the Thing once or twice an episode and moves a boulder off the road or punches out a bad guy or something. But I loved it. And when you watch it now, I've seen replays of it now. It is such a bizarre show because when the kid Ben Grimm turns into the Thing, he becomes an entirely different personality. Or they really did like a Shazam type thing with him, where it's the Thing is like this old grizzled New Yorker suddenly, and he goes back to being like this nerdy kid. It was just really bizarre when you think back on it, because it was nothing like the Fantastic Four that I knew. But yeah, that was probably my first comic. And another one that stands out is actually Hulk issue 267 or 257. It's the one where the Hulk is getting beat up on the cover by Gog and Mangog, and in the background the Arabian Night is kind of flying towards him, and I think it might have been like I don't know if it was a Ron Friends cover, maybe like a Herb Trimpe cover or something like that, but it's just great. It's vivid in my mind, and those two stand out as like probably the first ones I read.
Okay.
Yeah. Hulk and Thing, probably. And they've always been kind of big characters. The Thing more so for me than the Hulk. The Hulk was always more accessible, though, because the great Hulk cartoon from the 80s was so awesome. And, yeah.
Yeah, that only lasted a season, I believe.
I think so, but man, it was good. And it was weird, it was weird because like the Banner would transform back into the Banner from the Hulk, and he'd have his clothes wouldn't be torn anymore. He'd be fully intact. Like it was like this really weird cartoon transformation, but man, it was brilliant. I didn't even mind the weird hippie Rick Jones. It was good. Like they did some really cool stuff and introduced some cool characters. And of course, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was on around sometimes at the same hour. And that show is like just genius. My favorite show of that era is Thundar the Barbarian, but those things were all packaged together so wonderfully in those days. And it was just magnificent time to be a kid watching cartoons. Like,
well, they don't even have that stuff anymore. Like, you have to get most of the stuff online,
yeah, that's the thing. It's so different now. I think the Saturday morning cartoon is really a thing of the past. I remember feeling like in the kind of the mid to late 90s, like I said, I had a younger brother, and like it just seemed like there was just nothing but just Drek on TV, And I always felt like, man, I'm so lucky that like we had such awesome cartoons. Like I loved Muppet Babies. Muppet Babies was a wicked cartoon. Like it was so well produced, it was so well made, and I loved all that Ruby Spears stuff, and like the Thundar was just like Thundar is like religious for me, and I wanted to be Ookla the Mock when I was a kid. Like that's what I wanted to grow up to be, was an orange monster that yelled at everybody, which is not too far from the mark in some ways. But
you're getting that beard there to look like him,
Spent my whole life trying to grow a chin. Yeah, a chin like Ookla.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. No, things are good, and like the other big thing other than Ronin, of course, like is Dodge, the book I've been working on for the past couple of years with Matt Nixon. We launched our Kickstarter yesterday at 11 a.m. and it was funded by 2:00.
Wow.
And we just couldn't believe it. We had great success back in April with our first Kickstarter, which is actually our second Kickstarter, because our first one from 2 years before, it just fell apart. It wasn't good timing and things weren't really in motion. The last one in May we couldn't believe it was funded in 12 hours, and we ended up doubling our ask by the end of the month. Today we're already up over 160% of our ask, and I've been kind of like stuck in shocked bear face all day. You could make a meme out of my face, all the way it's looked the last 24 hours, because I'm kind of like, wow, I'm so glad that the books had a great impact. Like people seem to like the book, and we didn't hear one bad word about the first issue with Dodge. We've heard nothing but great feedback, and it's been just an awesome experience in a lot of ways. I love the characters. They're Matt's characters. They're part of his retcon universe from the Image series retcon, which you can go out and get in your local comic shop. It is a wicked comic book. I was immediately smitten with it. So when I was asked to draw the sequel, or the prequel essentially, of what Dodge is to retcon, I jumped right in there. The concept is great. It's a really cool idea. It kind of our story is very simplified down. We're telling what's kind of a pure origin story in the vein of like we wanted to have that kind of Marvel G.I. Joe or Marvel Marvel the Nam kind of vibe to it, and there's some stuff that takes place in Vietnam in ours, and there was a lot of research involved, so I could make sure the boats were accurate, and I tried to keep the guns. I've never felt like I'm real great at drawing guns or military stuff, so that was a bit of a challenge to get familiar with drawing 4 or 5 AK-47s per page, and different kinds of Russian machine guns, and trying to keep them looking accurate enough that when they reproduce, they're going to look okay. So yeah, just all that kind of stuff. Like I always like to do that kind of homework and make sure the book has that a feel. And I think Dodge is an excellent story. It's been a really cool thing to work on. I love the character. It's a Black Sabbath T-shirt wearing Werebear Commando who fights evil Russians. I can't think of a better time for a story like that to be told, in a way. And I think that was kind of the point behind it in a lot of ways. So yeah, the story's about these super soldier dudes who basically, not really super soldiers. They all have different abilities, but the first issue with Dodge is it's just the guys. They're facing off against a character from Russian mythology, which I've reinterpreted, Koshai the Undying, and there's a lot of action and crazy kind of stuff going on. And yeah, the Kickstarter's still running. We're only on our second day. Wow. It's the Kickstarter for Dodge #2. So you guys can, if you're listening, you can check that out and jump on board. It's going to be happening. We hitched our funding, so you might as well grab the book the only way you can. And the great thing is we didn't make the Kickstarter specifically for Dodge #2 because we want people to know that they can still grab Dodge #1. We still have some from our overprint of our first issue from the first Kickstarter. So if people are just jumping into Dodge for the first time, they can jump in and they can grab the first issue and be right on board when issue 2 comes out.
So you did all the artwork for that, Mike?
I'm sorry?
You did all the artwork?
I did all the artwork. Yep, I did all the artwork, and the coloring was done by Carolyn Nolasco, who's I believe in the States, and I think the whole team other than me is in the state. Matt Krotzer is the letterer, and Matt Nixon's the writer, and they're kind of all over in the States, and yeah, I'm the Canadian guy up here drawing the book, and yeah, I did. I probably have some of the original art around in a volume nearby, but yeah, it's I'm really happy with the work I did in volume 2. It's I think it might be some of the best work of my life. Issue 1, we lay a lot of groundwork and we get a lot of characters established and the setting established, but issue 2 is a real big payoff issue where you have lots of action. So if you just wait 1 sec, I'm going to grab just so I can quickly flip through the pages. Where is it now? Yeah. So I don't want to spoil it too much. If anyone wants to go and check out my shop, the pages are up there. They're not for sale because they're only available through the Kickstarter. But I have pages of Dodge available, for the second issue and the first issue. Also, I still have issues of the first issue, pages from the first issue available up there too, through the Kickstarter. There's different tiers. So yeah, lots of fun, lots of monsters and cool stuff. I don't want to spoil too much, but I've had a blast drawing this. It's been just lots of big challenges and lots of a real big challenge, like just a lot of work and a lot of hours. I mean, through various for various reasons, there was delays on the second issue. A lot of them were my problem. Work-related problems, housing-related problems, and so there were some delays with the book. So it took me almost just about a year, actually, to draw issue 2, which might be why the work looks as nice as it does, because I think it's some of the nicest work that I've done. I certainly had a little more time to put into it in some ways, less time in other ways. But it was a tough experience, a tough year. We've all had a real tough year, but it's amazing that we live in a time when we can have all this kind of hard stuff going on, and still people want comics bad enough to lend their support and lend their voice and share the word and help people make comics happen, for everybody. I'm really, really grateful. You probably know the guys from the Cauldron book, because I know they've done some events in Kitchener as well. Right. Casey Parsons and Shane Herron and Sam Noir. Sam was always out in Kitchener, I think. I think he's done that one quite a few times. And Sam and Casey and Shane have been absolutely invaluable to me with their advice on how to do Kickstarters and how different sort of methods to try and different ways to connect with other creators. And the payoff is amazing to see that these small steps can be taken and you can reach a lot more eyeballs on your project. And it's all really through community networking. And it's kind of an awesome thing. And I'm really grateful to Sam and all those guys for their help, because they are instrumental in what made Dodge happen for us last time and this time too. So if they're listening, a huge shout out to the guys from Cauldron, and you should definitely get your copy of Cauldron if you still can. I think their Kickstarter's over now. They had a massive success with their Kickstarter, and they are a major inspiration for me, and Matt, because they helped us make this all come true. So anyway, yeah. Sorry, I'm going on a bit of a ramble now and then, William. I don't get a lot of company, so when the floodgates open, boy, they open sometimes. So
I did look at right there for the Kickstarter for Dodge.
Yeah,
in the comments.
Fantastic!
I can play the video here if you like.
Yeah, sure, man. Yeah, Matt made a great little video for it. He made an awesome video for last May, our Kickstarter for last May as well, which I loved. It was just dynamic and fun. It was great. Yeah, go ahead and play it.
Yeah, let me pull it up here. I'm just everything set up.
I'll find my black ink. Nice and simple and to the point.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, it's pretty rad, eh? I think the old Kickstarter might still be up there too. He did a great video for that one as well, which was awesome. Yeah, I love it. He's doing cool stuff with that, man. I don't know the first thing about how to do any of that, so I'm grateful that Matt knows a little bit about what he's doing. My buddy Stefan at Big Country Comics, he's our wizard with that stuff. We got all kinds of cool stuff coming from Big Country as well, and he's doing a lot of that kind of video content. And we have some cool stuff coming up. I mean, I've got all this gear, like we've got all this gear to do live events and do things like this, like we're doing right now. And you know, it's probably going to be the way forward for all of us for a little while, because I think it's becoming very clear that COVID's not going anywhere for a while, and we're all going to have to just kind of get smarter or just find better ways to live with it, you know, and or a combination of both, I hope. So we'll see how it goes, man, you know.
Yeah, I still think that we should be let everything reopen up again, you know.
You think?
Yeah, I think so. You know, it's hurting our economy and stuff, you know. There's Wuhan is out there partying, because I've seen videos of them just having big concerts and stuff like that.
Yeah, you know? Yeah, but the difference is Wuhan locked down for like a super long time and eliminated their COVID outbreak. We did nothing like that here. We closed down long enough to piss everybody off, and then opened up long enough to get everybody fucking sick again. Sorry, I don't mean to curse. Yeah. I'm a little sensitive about it because my wife works in retail. Mm-hmm. And we need her income. We need her job. Otherwise, we're going to be on the street. And I'm in the same kind of boat a lot of the time, too. I'm barely scraping by right now. We lost 90% of our income between her shows being canceled and all of mine. You know, we've had to completely rebuild things. So I can appreciate that it's hurting our economy. That's for sure happening. But, you know, if we just actually took the initiative and had the patience to get through a short time of discomfort, to get through to the other side where we could have everything back the way it was before. But we can't do that now because there's so much divide. And that's a problem. That's a major problem. So I appreciate where you're coming from, because I agree. This thing for the economy sucks. Believe me, man. A good friend of mine is sitting right now with a house full of product that he's having. You know, we don't have the luxury to be able to sell at a show anymore. We have to find other ways to sell this stuff. I have vendors and friends of mine who've made things that they can't go on tour with, because there's some things that you simply can't sell online. There's people and crafters and artists who are all having to find different ways to make this happen, because we can't sell our wares anymore. So believe me, I understand the frustration. I think what we need to do is we need to start focusing on more outdoor events that are controlled. I think that it's difficult to do in Canada in the winter, of course. So maybe we just hunker down in the winter time and we prepare, and we can beat this thing in the winter if everyone just plays the same friggin' game. And then we can end up on the other side of this and then maybe have a nice summer where we can have Comic-Cons and have them outside, have them controlled, have them more, you know, more restrained and more sensible. But if we fully open it back up, we're just gonna people forget about the pandemic in
look at the flu. When we used to have, you know, back in 2019, we had the cold season. Nobody masked up. Nobody said let's lock down, stay in your houses because the cold is out there, the cold virus, you know.
Yeah, and that was a tough virus too. But you know what? Back in 1918, when the Spanish flu wiped out a quarter of the Earth's population, we didn't even have this. We didn't even have the information we had back then, and we still figured out that masks stop the spread of aerosol spread diseases. We still figured it out back then when we didn't even have penicillin then, and we figured out that masks actually turned the tide. You know, there was an event, I don't know the specifics, so I don't want to sound like a jackass up here, but there was an event back then where everyone around was dying of this flu, and there's this annual parade that happens and goes through a few of the states. Mm-hmm. And the one state that decided to have the parade had 600 infected people walk through a parade, and 2 weeks later, 20,000 people were dead. So you can't, and that's a fact, and that's something you can look. I can't think of the specific thing. Look up the Spanish flu, spend some time reading about it. There's lots of information out there. This thing has lasting damage. The reason why, we lose people to the flu every year. I've lost friends with the flu. It's a thing that happens. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, the body grows too old and weak to be able to fight a thing like a flu. Yeah. But this is killing young people, and the people who are surviving it are coming out on the other side with massive lung damage that wasn't caused by smoking in every case, or wasn't caused by whatever other ailment that they may have. This is stuff that's happening to people. People are getting hurt. Kidneys are failing. There's all kinds of shit going on. And there's all kinds of bad information out there too. And it's one of these things that, like, I just wish everyone could kind of get on the same page so that we could get through this so much faster. If we had just done what New Zealand did and locked their shit down, like legit locked our shit down, and then just spent that time locked down properly. We have a lockdown in Ontario where 75% of the businesses are still open. I mean, that wasn't any kind of a damn lockdown. They closed art shows where people can't even, can't. Believe me, I'm frustrated too. We're all frustrated too. And our population is diminishing. I'm living in Halton right now, which is a bit of a hot spot. There's a huge blow up in Winnipeg where I have friends living in Winnipeg. It's a red zone. They're back to phase 1 because people won't figure it out. And it's as simple as that, dude. And you can be on whatever side of the fence you want. I'm not here to debate that kind of nonsense. Yeah. But like, all I know is there's people right now who aren't going to survive this. And there's people out there that had a lot more years to live who haven't survived. And, it's a simple thing. It's a simple courtesy. If my mask makes you uncomfortable, then walk away. If you not wearing a mask makes me uncomfortable, then I don't know why it's so hard to put a mask on. People put their seatbelts on because we tell them they have to put their seatbelts on. If they don't put their seatbelts on, they get killed if they get in an accident. I don't see how this is an infringement upon rights any more than that is. People don't have a problem putting their seatbelts on. Well, some people do. And they pay the ultimate price. I don't want to pay the ultimate price because some jackass doesn't want to wear a mask. Simple as that. We can do all of this safely, and maybe we can reopen things safely too. Yeah. But we have to do it with everyone else's comfort in mind and everyone else's in the courtesy of knowing that not everyone's cool with this stuff, man. I had a lady, I tried to make room for a lady to pass me on the sidewalk the other day, and she stopped 6 feet away and she said, "Sir, I need 6 feet." And I'm thinking, I'm going to give you 6 feet. I'll give you 10 feet. I'll give you as much space as you want. I'm sorry. But I've just walked through a crowded sidewalk from downtown Oakville, and not one person had the same concerns that I did. And I keep my distance. And this one lady, she said, "I can't walk between you and your friend. I need my 6 feet. My friend and I were 6 feet apart." So I understand. But, it's a difficult time. And it's made more difficult by people who don't want to cooperate. And I just think that's where we're at. I agree. I'd love to open things back up, dude. But I don't think we're there yet because I don't think we're smart enough yet. Clearly. Because the numbers are sure showing otherwise. You know what I mean? But anyway, I didn't want to get all political on this thing. I love you, and I love everybody out there. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I just feel like there's a lot of bad information out there. So make sure you're getting the good information because it's out there too.
Yeah. Mike, I was going to ask you here. I noticed you're doing some shading here.
Yeah.
So what have you done? You've got some duct tape there, or not duct tape, masking tape.
Yeah. So what I did was, I'm kind of lazy, and my desk is a huge mess, like I was saying. So I don't have a palette. My regular palette, I think, is in the sink. So I just put down some masking tape, and I throw a little drop of ink on there, and I put the masking tape in such a way that I've made this little kind of like a pocket so that the ink can go in there. And that way, if I want to, I can get a brush loaded up with some water, and I can just drag some ink up onto this tape, and I'm getting a much grayer wash. Like if I have a piece of scrap paper, I can show, I can lay down a very, very pale wash of gray as opposed to solid black ink. So that's what I do. I usually lay down my black artwork first, my black line artwork, and then I go in and I lay my washes in to add that extra layer of depth and tone. So yeah, it's just something it's the way I've always done this, always done this thing. So yeah, it's a nice way to work. I like doing, I eventually started using washes on the pages of Dodge as well. I was originally going to keep it more kind of classically comic book drawn because I wasn't sure who was coloring my book at first. And not everyone knows how to use, how to color with washes. Like if an artist has done gray wash, not every colorist out there knows how to handle that, and sometimes things can look kind of gray. So I like in the case of this, in the case of something like this Archie drawing, all the shadows that were done on the face, and that was all done on the color stage. I didn't want to put any gray shadows on her face while I was inking because it would have turned very, very gray when I scanned it, and then it's something you end up having to fight against while you're coloring. So on something like this, though, that's just original art, I usually just go straight to ink and ink and wash, and I don't worry about it quite so much. This I probably won't color. This will probably just remain black and white. So I try to do all the tonal values I can that way, if it's a black and white piece.
And then it stands out a little bit better, right?
Yeah, it kind of helps things kind of emerge, and it gives it a sense that maybe it's a little more than. We don't have outlines around us as we walk around, and trees don't have outlines, and cars don't have outlines when we look with our eyes. But comic books are a different language. I like to try to find a place halfway between where I can kind of, do those lines. So it's, but then add that little bit of extra rendering and tone to make it a little bit closer to, not even realistic, but just a little bit more representational or a little more solid that way, Yeah. But no, he's a fun character to draw. I'm not going to spoil who it is. Everyone, if you're able to get a copy of The Last Ronin, you should go and get it because it's a really cool story. It's a long time in the making. And if you're a Turtles fan, it's kind of a nice payoff in a way because this is the Turtles in the far future, and it's a much different world than the one that we last saw them in when we were reading about them in Eastman and Laird comic books. So, and the current IDW run on Turtles is fantastic as well. They've been doing, like, I think they're up around issue 110 or something like that now. They've been running for a while, and Kevin Eastman actually works on that book as well. He's a writer. I think an associate writer or something like that on the book, and it's been doing really well. They're doing some really great stuff. That's where the Jenica story came from, and some cool things. Yeah.
Have you ever met Kevin?
No, I haven't met Kevin. I've been at shows with him though. I've encountered him. I was in the green room with him once, but never really got a chance to talk to him. It's weird. I have this. My friend Justin gave me this. There was when we did the Jenica book, we actually got some graded, and so I have a graded 9.8 Jenica. But the sweet thing is, it's double signed by me and Mr. Eastman. So that's a pretty cool thing to have in my collection. I don't normally buy comics anymore, like as a collector, because I'm buried in my childhood, basically, of collection. But so I don't buy a lot of new books these days. But we actually had an opportunity at Big Country to get the book signed by me and by Kevin Eastman, and we're hoping I'm not sure if we're doing that for Ronin or not, or if that's an option. It might be. But I'm sure Justin can clarify that if anyone wants to contact those guys. But yeah, it was pretty cool to know that even some of the ones that I sketched on, he ended up signing as well. So and sometimes they were double remarked. Like there was ones where I drew like something and he drew like his classic kind of turtle head remark that he does, and really, really cool. Yeah, no, he's a hero of mine for sure. Such a great story of success. I mean, really, in a way, the Ninja Turtles can only ever be imitated now. It's such an original thing, and it's such an amazing story, a journey. It can't be duplicated. It really can't be duplicated. The story of two indie guys making a comic book that has had such a lasting legacy and has been reproduced through film and cartoon and educational materials and video games and toys and just every possible outlet for Turtles. It was explored, and that's just kind of an awesome thing. That's just kind of cool. And, Spawn is probably, or I guess Dave Sim, probably from Cerebus. Cerebus is, well, I mean, Eastman even says that that Dave Sim's a hero of his, like in terms of his achievements with Cerebus and like that indie, that indie approach to things. The Turtles are such a massive success though. And I'd say like, Spawn, to a lesser degree, maybe Savage Dragon. Those first breakout indie books after Image was formed, right?
Right.
So yeah. So what are you working on these days? What's going on with you?
I am working on Max Burger.
Nice.
Yeah.
More like more stories. You're doing some drawing as well, or you're
that book I sent you.
Yep.
I redrew that a long time ago.
Oh, sweet.
So I've got 43 pages done.
Nice.
With the lockdown, I had some time to finish it off.
And that's the one nice payoff that came with the lockdown. There was a little bit of time to work on other stuff. If you weren't hustling too bad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
Yeah. So
you're gonna do a campaign for that, like a Kickstarter type thing, or
an Indiegogo started up. I'm collecting email addresses right now.
Oh, right on. That's cool.
So right now I am working on covers. I'm doing a bunch of variant covers.
Oh, nice.
And so I've got, I'm talking to Mike DiCarlo.
Oh, very cool.
You know who that is?
Yep.
We just discussed it. We haven't worked out anything yet. So we're just kind of talking back and forth.
Awesome, man.
He's interested. So I got to give him a call and
nice.
Work out the details. So
that's cool, man. Right on.
Yeah.
So when are you thinking of launching that?
As soon as I get enough people
awesome.
on my email list.
So is it? I know with Kickstarter, you can set it up in such a way that once you have the address of the web address or whatever where it's going to be, you can set it up so that people can just click on it to be notified when it launches. And that might be a way to do it too, if Indiegogo has something similar, because then I could share it, and I'm sure our friends in the Toronto and Ontario comic scene would share something like that, and then that way you get the word around that people can regardless when you launch, I'll help you any way I can for sure, because I've had a lot of people step up and help me this year, make things happen and make projects come true. So I've been trying really hard in the past, during the pandemic, actually. I've been trying to give as much as I can to different creators and different creator initiatives. And so I'm happy to hear you're redrawing it. It's kind of nice to revisit old pages. I still occasionally pick out my Widow's Wake. You may have picked up a sketchbook from me years ago when we first met, when I was developing my Viking horror comic book, Widow's Wake. And it never saw the light of day. It may yet. I occasionally pick it up and re-examine some of the pages, and it's nice to look back after these years and want to go back and fix things. But my problem was, at the time that I was drawing it, I couldn't get satisfied, and I was refixing page 3 before I was redrawing page 3 before I'd even got to page 4, kind of thing. And it was a slow, tedious process, and I ended up having to kind of abandon it when other jobs came in. But I do plan on doing it one day. I definitely, the experience of working on Dodge and doing these covers and different things has definitely made me realize that I kind of want to do what you're doing, which is create your own thing, create my own thing, my own character, and see where I can take it. I think about guys that we grew up with, guys like Jim Davis drawing Garfield or things like that, even where you have this great franchise that's born out of a cool, simple idea, and everyone ends up wanting it. You know what I mean? And that's the dream. So I really want to expand beyond that and get into toys eventually. I'd love to make action figures of my characters. Like part of the design of Dodge was, creating different helmets and different equipment as if we were making a line of GI Joe toys, as we're developing the characters. And I love the excitement of that. Like I have a whole page of different helmets I designed for the werebear version of Dodge. Designing a helmet that fits a bear. Trying to come up with the underwater adventure helmet or high altitude helmet or different and it's just ultimately a bear with a Black Sabbath t-shirt and ripped up jeans like the Hulk, but he's got this space helmet on for different occasions, just something a little weird like that. But I have some of my own characters I've been developing for years that, again, I've just been kind of things I've played with, and I usually make them up in video games, and I kind of test drive things in video games like wrestling games or things like that. But there's definitely a story or two in me that I want to tell outside of Widow's Wake and outside of Dodge. I got some projects that I want to work on, and some just some things of my own, like start making my own thing that people can kind of come after and wait for wait for the next installment of, right? So
I'm working on issue 3 right now.
Awesome.
Well, I'm going to use this issue 2, the one that you have. I'm going to reuse that. Except that one's going to be in color.
Oh, nice. Are you doing the coloring yourself too?
I don't know yet.
Oh, okay. Yep.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. I know there's some great colorists around, like in the Canadian indie scene, who, might help you out with that, or be able to hook you up with some people.
Okay.
Because if you're not experienced with it, it can be a bit of a chore, but it can also be pretty fun. Like I kind of dread coloring, but it depends on what I'm coloring. If I know I'm going to be spending my Sunday with a pot of coffee on and I'm going to be coloring leaves all day, well, there's worse days. It's boring and tedious, but there's worse days, I've had those, that's for sure. So, yeah. So, I mean, there's lots of people out there, though, with great skill sets you can probably pull from and see if anyone's around to help, because, now's the time for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a guy I've been watching on Facebook. He's a friend of mine on there. He's from the Philippines. I really like his stuff.
Yeah.
He's inked. He's colored Life Out stuff.
Oh, cool. Right on.
Did a book, Snake Eyes.
Yep.
So he did issue 2 of the cover.
Oh, cool. Right on.
And he's done some other stuff for Boom and
nice
other companies. And I really like, I think it's Ami is his name, or
okay, yeah, I'm not sure I know the guy, but that sounds great. If he's worked on projects like that, Snake Eyes is a pretty big deal. That's pretty cool. I'd love to work on a Snake Eyes thing.
Yeah,
that'd be a blast.
Yeah, his name is Ami Lantley.
Okay.
Yeah, he does some really, really, really good stuff. He's got a YouTube channel where he shows his coloring and stuff like that.
Awesome, man. That's great. Yeah. There's so much great info out there. I know, especially when you're, if you're like learning a new way of working or a new way of making comics. There's we live in a great age of tools and information, but it's almost at the point now when I have young people come to me or parents of people who are art students saying, where should my kid go to college? Like, where should they go to college? Like, what should they? And I always say, like, when I was dreaming about going to Sheridan College, we didn't have the internet. It didn't really exist. And so we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have videos. We didn't have demos or lessons that you can just watch for free, like free content to like, oh, here's how you ink stuff, or here's how you render flesh tone with Copic markers, or here's how you draw, this kind of complex structure or whatever it is. So yeah, it's a different age. So I would say now, like, there's so much information out there that's accessible. I'm not sure it's worth going into all that debt anymore, especially given the turn of events and COVID and all these things that we might have to live with for a while. It makes me feel like, there's lots of information out there that can be had for free. And if you you put the time and dedication in. Ultimately, it doesn't matter where you get your education from. All that actually matters is the time that you spend in your chair drawing and making and creating. That's the only thing that matters, and that's the only thing that will ultimately count in the end. Your diploma on the wall or your experience at college will not compare to the real life experiences you will have when you're creating something and surviving off of your own creations or your own creative efforts. And so to me, I feel like maybe college and art school isn't the answer. It was for me because we didn't have any other thing to consider back then. But I think now we're in a place where, where we have so much information. I mean, shit, you can sit and watch, Adam Hughes videos on YouTube for hours and just watch him draw and learn little tricks about making that little highlight on the nose look perfect, or how to render, long, beautiful legs, or certain kinds of fabric, or, pulling off different kinds of values or tones, all with different applications of different art tools. And that's just one guy. You can also jump on Twitch and watch people like Jim Lee or Don McTeague just sit and paint and draw, or my buddy Kelly Williams. I know Brian Level jumps on there sometimes, and there's just so much awesome content out there now. So you can go and jump on your project and get all the information you need, like learn how to color a certain way, or just pick up some tips. It's great. I've certainly found it helpful over the years with art, but I also found it helpful even as a superintendent. Like, how do I unplug a bathroom tub, or how, and there's a 5-minute YouTube video that tells me how. So
just it's helpful, yeah.
That's it.
But you can find all kinds of stuff up there. I found like interviews with creators and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Most times I usually download them. I don't know if that's really legal.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that all works, man. I don't. I'm like a technically inept person. My answer in court would be I didn't know if I ever got charged with anything like that, because I honestly there's stuff out there that there's. I mean, YouTube seems to be a pretty open, free place to find information, but yeah, you can pay for courses too, and there's lots of stuff out there that used to be a paid course that are now available for free, and oh yeah, you can learn all kinds of stuff. Sometimes software too. Like I know that once in a while, like Clip Studio or things like that go on sale for really cheap, and that's like your all-in-one comic book making digital software machine. I don't have it myself. I draw with Procreate on my iPad when I'm penciling. I haven't dared to go down that road. I feel like I'd need about a week or two to really learn how to use the interface on Clip Studio, because I'm not a computer guy.
Yeah.
But it's got all the tools for making comics, drawing grids, drawing boxes, perspective tools, ellipse tools, figures you can import so you can figure out the space around them, and just all kinds of stuff you can do. Just an amazing age right now to live in so many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, what
it's
was
not all doom and gloom, man. It's not all doom and gloom. We just gotta. My wife lives by the motto: we have to choose joy and keep choosing it.
Yeah.
And that's it, man.
Yeah, we do.
But I'm hoping we can get back together and have some shows again soon, and do some cool stuff, man. I actually miss seeing my friends out in Kitchener. I always have a good time in Kitchener.
You haven't been to a show for a while. You weren't down this year, were you?
No, well, I mean, even that was the crazy thing. Like, basically, while I was working on Dodge, I kind of went from doing 25 shows a year down to about doing 5 shows a year. And then I went down to even doing less shows than that in 2018. I just did like the East Coast show, and I went out to the Halifax. I did the HalCon show. I did Seattle in 2017. That was my last time at a show in the United States. And then I did a one American event at the Colorado store for the launch of Little Bird last year in Colorado. But yeah, I really had only been sticking to local shows that I could get to because I don't have a vehicle. So I would, I can hop on the train and get to some places and get a ride here and there. But yeah, I took a year off basically to I couldn't afford to do a lot of shows for one. I didn't have anything to offer at a show. I just kind of had the same old stuff, and I was working on Dodge, which wasn't ready yet, so I didn't really have anything to tour with, or even really anything to promote at the time, because the project was still underway. So I took about a year off, and then I hooked up with the guys at Big Country, man, and we had a tour date like lined up. Like we were going to make T-shirts for the tour date because we were hitting every town, and we had it all lined up, especially with the Turtles covers and the Archie stuff and the Sumerian stuff, and then all the great work that Hugh Rookwood's been doing for Big Country as well. We had a whole tour lined up, man, all across Canada, every province, and it all just got shut down. Which is, there's no way to do a safe Comic-Con. There's no way for someone to hand me their book and have me sign it and hand it back and have it all clean. There's no, even doing commissions in a person's sketchbook, there's lots of contact there. It's a concern. So, we just got to find a new way to do it for now until we can get back to those days. But I don't think those days are gone forever. And if they are, that's too bad. But I can say without any regret that I had a great time doing them. If they never come back, that was a great time. Getting to connect with people like you, and I could always count on seeing you showing up to a show in Kitchener and just having a great chat with you, and a dozen other faces like yours, people that I would always see there, and sometimes see at the occasional other show in another town. And yeah, man, it's tough. It's tough I miss all those people. But the weird thing is, I'm finding as I'm connecting with people briefly here and there, during this pandemic, I'm finding that it's like no time has been lost. Like it seems like a century ago, and it also seems like yesterday. So it's a funny thing. Maybe that's just a getting older thing. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't talking about conventions. I remember going, before 9/11 and that. 9/11, you had to get You had to get a passport and everything to be able to go to the States.
Oh yeah.
Back then, when I traveled, you just got a ticket, went to the airport, got on a plane, didn't have to show anything.
I know.
And
I remember, it's so different, man. 9/11 definitely changed everything. I remember walking across the bridge to get to the States via Niagara Falls with my little brother in hand to go and watch wrestling across the States, like in Buffalo, not in Buffalo, but in Niagara Falls, New York, at the convention, the rec center there, watching WWF come to town. Like, here's me. I'm like probably 18 or 19 or maybe younger with my little brother who's 8 years younger than me. And all we've got is our Canadian, not even our passports. All we had was our birth certificate so we could prove we were Canadian. And, like that, it was nothing. Like it was just walking across and going shopping and coming back, or walking across and seeing a show and coming back. Like it was nothing. So it was such a drastic change, crazy to think that was so long ago now and everything changed. But
I remember like back in the 80s when I flew down, it was like, okay, I hit Chicago, I hit Atlanta, Albany. I make sure I pronounce that right.
Yeah.
Because that's where I met Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird at.
Oh, how cool. You actually got to meet them, eh? That's wicked.
Yeah, me and my dad drove down, and I had him sign all my first comics, graphic novels. You probably know what the first comics.
Oh, yeah, man. I've got them here. That's so wicked.
They signed all those. They signed my number 1 of Ninja Turtles. I have a second printing.
Wow.
And I have a first printing of number 2, 3. I bought the second one at a comic book store in Waterloo.
Yep.
Guy who owned the store, he sold it was like almost a convenience store almost. I don't remember that part of it. People were saying that it was like a convenience store, but I remember more of a comic book store. And he wouldn't allow you to read or flip through the books in the store. And he would freak right out if you had touched the wrong books in the wrong area.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw the number 2 there because Harry Kramer, I don't know if you know who Harry Kramer is.
I know the name. Yeah, I'm not sure I know him.
Well, Harry Kramer is the guy who started Now and Then Books in Kitchener. He was the first comic book store to open in North America. And they have an award after him in Toronto.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Yep.
And Harry, I knew Harry from a long time.
Oh, very cool.
And Harry wasn't carrying the book. So I would, how it is. Sometimes some stores wouldn't carry. You go to another store.
Yep.
and I ended up going down to Phil's store. And I didn't like going to the Phil's because Phil was just a cranky guy. They have a new guy that there was a guy that bought the store. He worked for Harry. He bought the store off for Phil, and he says to me, he says, he asked me, what was the first thing what do you remember of Phil? And I said he was crabby. He says that's why people don't come in, you know. But Andy started working on the store to make people know that he's, you know, a good guy. He's, you know, and he's been doing that for a while. Is that it? Oh, you've got the
yeah, I just put it over top. Yeah. Yeah.
And that is a nice cover. I really like that.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah, well, he ordered one from Justin. It'll be on its way to you soon, I'm sure, man. Yeah.
And I got to come run up and get you to sign it.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, hopefully we can. I mean, I'm sort of opening up to the idea of maybe doing some comic book shop appearances, like maybe some socially distanced, just some kind of, you know, little tours where I could maybe try to move some of these books that I've got, because I've had like 6 or 7 or 8 covers come out in the past like few months, and it was just, you know, it's just hard to get them mobilized and out in front of people because there's no shows. But comic shops might be a way to go, and I know our local comic shop here in Oakville, Comic Connection. I know they're open to the idea. They have a huge store too, so it would be a very, very easy one to do a safe kind of autograph type thing with it. And if people were concerned, I mean, we could always autograph the books, and then they could pick them up a couple days later if they've sat in, you know, quarantined if they have to for a few days or whatever the protocol is on that. But at the end of the day, I'm happy to like make the books available where I can. And, you know, there's so many great comic book shops that I'm sure would love to do some stuff like that. If we wear masks, you know, I'm good with like keeping it like safe and doing something like that. I mean, my wife works retail every day, right? So it's one of those things where there's always going to be that level of risk. So, you know.
Well, London had, I went out with a friend of mine a few weeks ago, I think it was. And maybe off by a week or two. But we went off to London, and it was an outside convention at a drive-in.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it was the Mustang in London. There is one in Guelph. So I almost said Guelph when I said Mustang. But they have it in London. They had it outside. So they had it all spread out. You know, they had some what they had. Mutt there was there. Mutt, the Emanation Studio.
Oh yeah, yep.
Stores.
Yep.
Yeah, so you could have had some note there, you know.
Yeah, I mean it's just yeah, I think we're getting to a place. I'm getting to a place where I'm getting more comfortable with it for sure. Currently I'm really only going out about once a week. Like I go to hit the mail. I go to other than checking my mailbox, which is a few blocks away, I go and do one mail run a week, 1 or 2 mail runs if there's heavy volume. If I'm just mailing artwork out or comic books out to people, and I do a shopping run, you know, once a week for groceries. But we really have locked down very much in our own lives, just out of necessity. You know, we have you know, compromised people in our lives that we don't want to, you know, we can't see, and I don't want to make it any harder to see them. So we're trying to stay as safe as we can. But, you know, there's definitely going to be safe ways to do things. There's going to be safe ways to get back and connect with people, and then get that hands-on kind of experience that we're all missing from the comic shows and conventions. Because yeah, it's been a different time. It's been a whole major adjustment for all of us, you know, and you know, we're gonna get through this. We're okay. You know,
we'll get through it. Yes,
we've survived worse things than this, I think. You know, I just noticed in some areas where I can add highlights. I never stop noodling a piece. A piece is never finished until I put it in the envelope and mail it away.
I know.
Then I have to stop. Then I know it's physically out of my hands, and I have no choice but to stop at that point. So
I think we're all like that. So
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I can ruin a piece just as easily as I can create a good piece just by you know, mindlessly kind of like adding tone or adding texture, and you know, it just gilding the lily sometimes. You know, there's other words for it too, but so yeah.
Well, let me add the live stream. We'll chat just for a bit here when I end it, and then we'll get going.
Yeah.
So, do you want anything you want to plug here, Mike? Before
Well, yeah, there's just two things really. Number one, our Kickstarter just launched with Dodge yesterday. We've already achieved our funding, so if anyone wants to jump on board and jump on a for sure thing, because the book is complete. It's just getting lettered and colored. We know this is going to happen now much more easily because it's been funded. We have some stretch goals coming, so definitely look on Kickstarter for Dodge. I believe the official title is Dodge, a story about a surly werebear, but it's part 2 of Dodge, and it's the Kickstarter is up, and you can hit that. I've got links all over my Facebook page and my Instagram page. Where Instagram, I'm Uncouth Ruth. On Facebook, I'm just Mike Rooth. If you're a friend of William, you listen to this show, you're a friend of mine, so you can contact me on Facebook. And I wanted to say, if you're interested in The Last Ronin or any of the other covers that I've done, like Archie or any of the other things, you can go to bigcountrycomics.com, and you can also go to the Facebook page, the private Facebook group for Big Country Comics. If you join that group today, there may be an opportunity for people to get their hands on a few remaining copies of The Last Ronin. It's officially sold out at the shop online, but you can contact Justin personally via the personal Facebook group, and we can probably make something happen for you there. So those are my two kind of big things this week. I should also mention that there's a bunch of friends of mine that got Kickstarters happening as well. I know that Sam Noir is a friend of ours. He's got Ballyskillin happening right now. Ballyskillin happening, which is a cool interactive kind of comic book experience with some animated stuff that happens interactive with your phone. It's a really, really cool thing. I've shared links for that on my wall. Marco Rudy has a great Kickstarter right now going called Rainy Day Women, RDW, and it's a fantasy story that he's painting. And Andy Belanger has Mother Trucker happening. I believe its campaign is still running. I think he made it a little bit longer to allow for the American election, because there might not be a whole lot of anything happening next week after the election. So those are some great Kickstarters you can follow as well. Just all support is appreciated from all creators I know. We're all struggling through some hard times, and I know lots of my friends and artists and curators of mine, friends of mine, have all been donating work and trying to help people out. So help support these Kickstarters, help support these artists, and if you want your Last Ronin comics, check out Big Country Comics, and if you want to get Dodge, jump on the Kickstarter for Dodge. And I'm really proud of this work, and I think you'll dig it.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike, and thank you for coming on. And
my pleasure, man.
Yeah, and if anybody's watching the YouTube channel here, please subscribe and click the like button for me. That'll help me out a lot. All right, thank you, awesome. And we're going to end, and I'll be back again some other time. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, man.